Have you ever thought to yourself, I can't wait to grow up? Then, after realizing how much it costs, you say, well, forget that. Today, we're going to talk about typical expenses throughout the different phases of life and why it's important to know the storm is coming. And what I mean by the storm is coming is being prepared for the next phase of life, right? Most of us are in the young, we're living at home. Then we end up wanting to go rent an apartment because we feel like we are an adult now. And then we end up getting married with kids and having a house and so forth. So let's take a look at the expenses involved with that and what you would have to make as far as an income to afford this. So let's talk about living at home. This is essentially living with your parents or somebody else that can pay for all of your expenses at home. So typically you don't have any of these expenses. So any rent or any type of maintenance around the house or anything like that. You may have a car payment. I put a note here, recommend paying that off immediately. Or if you can get a lower cost car, always better. Car insurance, you could have that. Your parents may end up paying for that as well. Car maintenance, similar. They may pay for that, they may not, but these are kind of some rough numbers here. And all these numbers that you're going to look at are typical throughout what I've seen in my life. And it could vary depending on where you are in the country. But so to keep that in mind as you're looking at these numbers. Cell phones, you got food that you want to purchase, and this here is once again an expense per month, and the expenses per year, and this is percent each. So it's just telling you what percentage of where your money is going. And so whenever you look down here, you can see the 50 for health and wellness, 50 for clothes, probably not a kid at that point, definitely not accounting for kids at this point. Vacations and entertainment. So you still want to go out and have a little bit of fun. But this is the most important line on here, which is that investing of 30%. And you can see right there that 30% number. Now you'll also notice that you have to so essentially how this works is you multiply all of your cost above times 0.43. And that's how you end up getting that 30% of your income. Just happens to work out that 0.43 is the number that you would need there. And that gives you a total expenses per month of $1,873, which is around $22,000 a month. So that means you need a gross income of around $25,000. So that's roughly $14, $15 an hour or so. And this is at an estimated tax of 12%. So let's move on to single and renting an apartment. So now you're single and you're wanting to rent an apartment. So you're moving out of your mom and dad's house there, and you're now wanting to go out and rent. And just looking at different rentals in my area, just renting apartments, stuff like that. I'm just going to say it's about $1,500 a month. You then have your rent insurance. Yes, there is rental insurance if you're not aware that you need that. You don't really have any of the home maintenance, all of that right now because you're just renting at this point. But you may need to start having your own health insurance. So you now, and just kind of the way it works right now is at age 26, you would have to start buying your own insurance. And your mom and dad can't afford or actually pay for or put you on their insurance anymore. So you're now going to have to do that yourself. Prescriptions. So now you've got, let's say, some medical things going on, and you have some prescriptions, subscriptions there, or prescriptions. Sorry about that. And then once again, you got that car payment. So it's just carrying over that car payment over. And then car insurance may go up depending on where you're at in the country. And then you have your car maintenance at 80. So we're thinking it probably goes down just a little bit. Car gas, similar, roughly $100 there. We're saying water is going to be about 50. So yes, you do have to pay for water once you start getting into those apartments. Some of the apartments may include it, but then your rent goes up. So you just have to watch that. Your electric, so you do have to pay electric separately. So now you didn't have that before. Some other things you didn't have before is you may have to start paying for toll roads. If you have toll roads in your area. Internet, you may have to pay for internet, so there's your cost there. Cell phone, so similar, you still got your cell phone bill. And then you've got, you're going to probably have a few more or some more on food, because here you were using your mom and dad to provide food, and you were just going out to eat every now and then, where now you're having to provide your own food. And then clothes and stuff like that, we didn't really change much there, because you're not going to be able to do a whole lot, we don't think, with that. TV subscription, so now you've got your internet, which is this one here. Well, now you're going to likely add some subscriptions on that. And so we're saying that's about 40, so that's like Netflix and Hulu, things like that. Health and wellness, we still want to keep our health up, so we're still keeping that gym membership or vitamins or whatever you want to do there. Holiday gifts, just know you're always going to have to end up buying some type of gifts throughout the year. And vacations, entertainment, so you never take that away. But you can see that still not a whole lot, but it's at least something there. And then, of course, we're keeping up that 30% minimum. And you can see that the 30% does increase. And that's primarily because we're now in a higher amount of cost. So this has to increase with it. And it's once again that same 0.43, how that ends up working. So then we're saying that at this point we need to make we need a net income of $60,000 a year. So we now need to be at $72,000 per year. Now remember, when we were working here, we only need about $25,000, whereas here we almost need 3 times that. So $72,000 for just renting an apartment. So now let's take a look at married with kids. So let's say we've gone through the single renting an apartment there, and we meet someone and we decide to end up having kids, and we end up living in a house. So now we've got all these extra expenses. So let's take a look at those. So we're going to assume that we're in a $450,000 home, 6% over 30 years, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Could be less, could be more, but I just chose that amount. And so let's say we're spending $4,000 a month. Well, you could see you went from 0 to 1,500 to 4,000 pretty quick there. And usually this is over a span of years. You know, some people do it in a shorter amount of time. Some people do it in a longer time. Some people never get to this point, or they have a much smaller house, which is fine as well. But you can see that there's going to be a lot more expenses that come with having a house. So the first one is the wonderful property taxes. And depending on where you are in the country, if you're paying state income tax, then maybe this is lower. Whereas if you're not paying state income tax, you're probably going to have higher property taxes. So anyway, just know that you have to pay that. Then you have home insurance. So that'll be roughly that 170. That's where it is where I'm at in the world. Home maintenance, it's roughly 400. And what that is you typically put 1% of your home value. So whatever your home is, and you want to do improvements to the home, or the home items start breaking down, you got filters and anything that could go wrong with the home there, you'd put that 1% away for that. Then if you have a pool, assume that's going to take roughly $200 a month there. And yard maintenance, so you want somebody to cut your grass and trim the edges, so forth, putting $100 on that. Cleaning maintenance, we'll put $200 there. That's if you have someone come in and clean the inside of your home for you. Then you have health insurance. You now have essentially double that. Usually with a family, you double it. And let's look at prescriptions. So now 50. You could argue that this is if you're in decent health. Usually one of the parents, in this case, either you or your other spouse has a medical condition, or start to have medical conditions. So that may be a little bit higher or lower depending on where you're at. Car payments, so this is just assuming 2 cars now. Obviously, we want to recommend paying those off, because that is a big chunk of money that's coming out each month. Car insurance, you'll notice that with yourself, it's 150, and with two, it's 150, and that's because usually you're younger here, and it's just more whenever you do that. Then we got car maintenance at 160. So now you got two cars, so you got twice the amount. You've got gas, you just double the gas money there. Water, you now have a house, so it's likely going to be a little bit more on the water side. And electric, so now you've got a house, it's going to be much more on the electric side. You now have gas, or you could have gas. This, if you don't, then you throw extra onto here. But if you have gas, roughly 60 bucks a month. Toll roads, 40. Internet, 90. Cell phone, still hanging out about 60. You probably can find some decent cell phone plans now that can keep you in that range. Food, this is where it really starts to make a difference, because now you have wife and kids. Yes, you will hit those 1,000 marks sometimes. So keep that in mind. You went from 250 feeding yourself to more feeding, or actually barely feeding yourself because you're using your parents' money. Then you're feeding yourself. Now you're feeding yourself and others. So just kind of see the increase there. And then clothes and others and stuff like that. This is also kid stuff. So you actually have kids cost money. So it's going to be something that comes out of that. And this may be low. There could be thousands here, depending on if you have sending them off to daycare and stuff like that. Pet expenses, I can tell you, pets are expensive, and $100 a month is not far off because you're buying them dog food, you're taking them to the vet, and all the different stuff that goes along with that. TV subscriptions, we'll just say we've increased it a little bit. Health and wellness, you now have two people, so you want to keep up that health and wellness. Holiday gifts, you're now going to have to buy gifts for more people. You even have people getting married, stuff like that, and including Christmas and so forth. Then you have vacations. You're probably not going to have a whole lot of vacation time whenever you're doing with the kids, but you still want to have that available for you. And then, of course, that multiplier for the investing, 30%. And you can see that we're hitting $177,000 here. And you can see how it goes from we'll say 25,000 to 72,000. This is gross income. So that's a 3X. And this is almost a 3X again, as you can tell here. So it's almost like as you go through life, there's these 3X periods that end up hitting. And this is, typical. However, it may not be exact, but that is what the storm is. You have to understand, whenever you're young, the storm is knowing that you need to make a certain amount of money during different phases of life. And these are just kind of based on what I've seen in my experience, and what you would likely see now as you enter adulthood. So we want to say two things. Welcome to adulthood. This is real life. And then also, while you're living at home with your mom and dad, thank them because they are providing a lot of costs that you are not having to pay for. So you should be very thankful for that, and knowing that, yes, when it is time to move out, you do need to make a decent amount of money. And yes, whenever you decide to make your commitment to another person and have kids and stuff like that, the cost does increase quite a bit. So just so you know, the storm is coming, but you can survive the storm if you know it's there. And you can also lower some of these amounts as well, and find ways to save cost. So anyway, until next time.